The crazy part with Airbnbs is that there are so many tiny factors that will allow one property to perform significantly better than another property. If finding an Airbnb that would be profitable was easy, we wouldn't exist. The only reason we exist is because Airbnb has gotten far more competitive, prices nearly doubled, and interest rates tripled. All of a sudden, it becomes a lot more difficult to find a property that has the ability to win. The saying goes, when there's blood on the streets, buy real estate. Everyone's terrified right now. Therefore, you have significantly less competition of people going out there and actually buying short-term rentals.
This is perfect that you are the data guy. You compile all of it that people rely on to decide whether or not a specific property is a good purchase or not. Before we dive into the nitty gritty, give me a couple minutes on how you got to where you are, how you got to be the expert, and then starting up STR Search.
Awesome. Sounds good. So I do go by the Airbnb Data Guy online. And the reason that I feel credible to be able to teach that and speak about this is because I acted as the head of data for TechVestor, which is now the largest short-term rental investment fund in America. I helped them identify 150 properties in less than 2 years. Every single last one of those properties is a profitable property. So that's the first piece of credibility that I want to share. The second piece is that we have now been able to help identify over another 100 properties in less than 2 years for retail investors, just regular people trying to save on taxes and be able to create additional income and things like that. And every single last one of those properties is profitable as well. So the process that I teach works, and my whole thing is give it all out, right? That's why I'm going to try and share as much as I can today. I can also share different people we've worked with that are the big wigs that have trusted us as well. But regardless, I think that's enough credibility to just kick things off and then jump into the origin story.
Yeah.
I used to be a financial advisor and I hated it. And I was looking at some different business that I could get into that I could figure out how to scale and grow. And I'm a guy who loves to travel. And so Airbnb just naturally pulled me in. And so I tried to take some of this knowledge that I learned from the finance world of investing and bring it to the Airbnb world. And what I ended up doing was opening up a couple of properties. I had my spare bedroom. I rented that out. I kind of learned like the ins and the outs and realized like, hey, this is actually real. You know what I mean? Like people actually book this stuff and you can make some money. And then I went and opened up a couple more. And then I realized I want to leave this financial advising business and I want to go build an Airbnb business. And I had to raise some money to be able to do that. And so to raise money, you've got to be able to prove, try your best to prove that you can actually make a profit from the money you're raising, right? And to be able to do that, you got to be able to figure out how much you can make, right? So I had to be able to try and figure out how much is this Airbnb actually going to end up making so that these people can see that, they believe it, and then they're willing to give me their money to then go out and to open up an Airbnb, right? Those are the origins of the whole Airbnb Data Guy and learning this entire process was like, I had to raise money if I wanted to actually do this. And so I learned about AirDNA, which is like the number one, it's not like, it is the number one platform for Airbnb data, and use that data to be able to analyze these properties. Was able to raise about $250,000. Didn't end up using it all, but regardless, went and opened up a whole bunch of rental arbitrage properties. We can really get into the arbitrage side of things if you want to go deep into it. I'm not a huge fan of that at all. But anyways, eventually I had about 15 plus properties out of Chicago. Some were rental arbitrage, some were management. I had a cleaning company out of there as well. And then COVID came around and wiped all of that out. Overnight, every single last booking, completely gone. But ultimately, what I realized after this experience was that I loved the data side of Airbnb, but I really didn't love the hosting side. It was like this weird sort of thing, but I loved the data side and I was starting to help other people. I created a little mini course around it, put on YouTube for free. Thousands of people watched it. And I eventually realized I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but I'm going to find a place where I can work, hone in on this skill of Airbnb data, and then go from there, right? And then build something from there. But that's the origin story where I came from finance, didn't love it, opened up some properties, figured out what I was good at within that, then honed in on that skill, then built up that skill, had a whole bunch of track record behind me to prove that I knew what I was doing, and then opened up STR Search, where we could now help everybody and anybody. It took nearly a decade to get where I'm at, but we had to go through this entire process to get where we are, right? So, and anyone listening to this, that's the entrepreneurial journey, if anything. You go through a lot of different steps before you get to the thing that actually ends up working out or you're most happy with.
Oh yeah, it's the 10-year overnight success, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. I had that thought the other day. I'm like, it feels like that a little bit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's so common across entrepreneurship in general, right? There's a few that are the quote unquote overnight success, the unicorns, but even at those, there's a certain amount of time that's passed that where there was a ton of trial and tribulation and a ton of maybe going belly up before
Yep.
even making it. So I love that part of it.
Hermosi always talks about this and says just build the skills, right? Or do the thing that's interesting, right? If you want to have that story or if you want to be able to talk about these things, like just do that rather than going on social media and talking about how all these different things that you really have just never done at the level that other people have done, right? And create your own story. So I fully agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. All right. So tell me all about STR Search. Are you a platform where I can go enter a property address for a home for sale and figure out if it's a good purchase? Give me all the details on what STR Search is.
For sure. Yeah, we are not that. So
Okay. I was
yeah.
way off.
Yeah. There are other platforms out there, but we're not that. What we are we help people identify properties that could be good short-term rentals that have a really high likelihood of being profitable short-term rentals. I hate using the word consultant because we're really not consultants. We are helping people through this entire process and helping them figure out which market that they should go into. Why that market? If not that market, maybe another market. And then we help them figure out which property within that market is going to make the most sense for them to move forward with and why. What is it about that property that's so good? And then we go, well, how do you got to set this property up to outperform your competition within this market that you're now in, right? And then we go, how do you actually market this property and set up this listing photos wise on Airbnb, the website, for it to stand out in comparison to your competition? And then how do you price it? How do you manage it? Like this whole sort of process you got to go through. And essentially, we're trying to like launch them so that they're then good to go with a good Airbnb. Okay. So let me just explain that one more time. You come to me, we help you identify the market, we help you identify the property within that market, how to set the property up, and how to market it properly. And then you're off to the races to have a property that has a really high likelihood of being profitable. We are analysts. Okay. So we don't own the data, we don't scrape the data, we don't have the data on our side. We are analysts of the data. AirDNA is the number one data platform out there for collecting and distributing Airbnb data. However, we then come in and interpret it, try to make sense of it, and then put it into the real world. And that part there is very difficult to the point where even people at AirDNA hire us to help them identify properties because it's not as simple as just having the data. It's okay, let's make sense of this. What does all of this mean? What decision should I make based off of the information that's in front of me? And now I actually have to make that decision. And then now that I've made that decision, what are the other steps I need to do to make sure that I'm set up for the most possible success? So, does that give you a picture of what we're doing with these individuals and how we're helping people?
Yeah, absolutely. So give me a couple examples of data points that you guys take into account. Is this everything from geographic location to a city center plus recent sales comps types of thing? What are a few examples of data points that you guys take into consideration?
So on Airbnbs, you can figure out how much the potential revenue is that property made over the entire year. So think of every Airbnb that exists in the world right now. You can generally figure out how much each one of those Airbnbs are making as long as they meet certain criteria. Okay. If they've been running for an entire year and it's been running properly and it hasn't been shut down and they haven't stopped it and all these sort of things. If it's just been running for a year full time clean, you're generally able to figure out exactly how much that property is made because sites like AirDNA are going into the calendar of every Airbnb every single day, recording it, and then tracking this. And they do this over a full year. And then eventually they know how much that property made. Right. And they're like, this property roughly made $100,000. There's a ton of caveats to what I just said, but generally you can figure out exactly what the annual revenue is. Okay. Then you obviously know their bedroom count, their bathroom count, their location in the market. And those are the very starting points of what we're doing is we're figuring out how much are we making, where are we located, what size of a property are we? Okay. Now you mentioned the idea of how close are you to the city center or the main attraction for that market, whether it's like a beach or maybe a trailhead, right? We're definitely going to consider those things as well, but each market's going to be a little bit different and each market will determine how we interpret the location. So this fall, the location and a hot tub to me are similar things. They are what I refer to as a revenue driver. Okay. So if I'm in a major city and I'm right downtown, my property, even if it's worse, is almost always going to make more than the property that's 15 minutes away from downtown. Okay. Because of location. So therefore, location drives revenue. Right. Now, if I have a pool in my backyard, and I'm 15 minutes away. And then there's another property that's also 15 minutes away that doesn't have a pool. I'm going to make more money because I have a pool. I drive more revenue because I have that thing. And so a lot of the data points that we're pulling in are, okay, what is this property? Where is it located? And then what are the things that it's doing to be able to make more than other people? Because the crazy part with Airbnbs is that there are so many tiny factors that will allow one property to perform significantly better than another property. And you can go look in downtown Scottsdale right now. There's about 5,600 short-term rentals just in the downtown core of Scottsdale. In the entire Phoenix Scottsdale area, there's 36,000, something along those lines. Okay. So just in the downtown, we got 5,000. In that little downtown area, there's hundreds of 4 bedrooms. Okay. With a pool. And there are some that are making $200,000 or more that are 4 bedrooms. And there's others that are making like $90,000 or $80,000. But the crazy part is that the ones doing 200,000 are not uber luxury, massive properties allowing them to make so much more. That's not the reasoning. It's usually the amenities, the style, the specific design that they chose to attract people. So like a lot of these places will hyper design it for bachelorette groups, and now it becomes this immersive experience for a bachelorette group that's going to Scottsdale. So it's like the equivalent of a kid walking into Disney World, where you walk in and you're walking around Harry Potter world and you feel like you're inside the movie. That's what it's like for these Airbnbs that are all pinked out for bachelorette trips, right? Something like that creates an immersive experience, which allows somebody to make more money, which to me is a data point to say, hey, that's driving revenue. Therefore, how can we learn from that, right? In other words, we have the information on every single Airbnb that exists across the entire world, but from how much they're making to what they're doing to do that. And if we just study it and learn it, we can replicate what's working. Right. I said a lot there. Do you have any questions on that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So I guess in my mind, if I'm coming to you to help me decide, like, what station am I in as someone coming to you, John, to help me out? Am I currently owning Airbnbs? I'm trying to expand my portfolio. Am I a first time, like, trying to get into the space, but I have 4 properties I'm looking at, but I don't know if one of them or all of them are worth my time and money? Mm-hmm. What stage am I in when I come to work with you?
Okay, so there's something that I haven't really mentioned thoroughly, because we sort of have 2 different groups that come to us, and I want to make sure that both of them are understood, right? So I have on the website a 7-day Airbnb data challenge. It's 100% free. We don't even ask for your email. I put together this step-by-step process after identifying 120 properties. I mentioned that earlier, right? Mm-hmm. This exists on the website for the do-it-yourself people. Right? The people who are trying to figure out how to identify a property, make sure they get it right. And most of these people are the ones that are looking to escape their W-2. They either have a property, or most of them probably don't have a property and they're just trying to learn. But we definitely get a ton of people who have either gotten 1 property or 2 properties, or they manage a couple of properties and they're now at the point where they're going to get their own. And they understand the importance of data because they've learned through hard knocks. And so they're coming to learn how to get really good at the data to then be able to do it themselves. Okay. And I've purposely set the business up because I want people to feel like they can have that information and then work with us as an option. You know what I mean? If they want to. With that being said, most people that are hiring us right now to actually help them through this stage are high income earners who have a tax problem and have no time. It's almost everybody. Okay. So they make a lot of money and they're going to pay 6 figures in taxes, and they use the short-term rental tax loophole to avoid doing that. And instead of trying to understand Airbnb data and understand all the different markets and be able to do all of that, because they have a very in high demand business, or they have a family and they don't have spare time, they then choose to hire us to help identify the market, the property, how to set it up, and the connections with all the people they need to, so they can get launched and ready to go. And then they go through the STR tax loophole, save a bunch of taxes, and they come back again for another one. So we have 2 different categories, right? The people with time that want to learn how to do this and build the skill themselves, and then the other people without time and need the help and guidance from someone like us. That's about 80% of our clients. We do have the do-it-yourself people who fall into analysis paralysis, and they're just like, I've tried so hard. I've given it my all. I just need to hire you guys to help me finalize this and make it happen. We go, that's what we're here for. You know what I mean? Like, we totally understand. So 2 different groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that makes more sense. Now, so do you have a team of analysts working with you?
Yes. Yeah. Analysts,
Okay.
acquisition people. Yeah. I think we're at a team of 7 right now.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
team of 7. Yeah. I'm trying to have the best possible data team that exists. To be honest, I'm positive we already have it in comparison to all the other people out there. I'm confident that we have the strongest analysts who understand the process really, really well. And then we have other people who are able to explain that to clients that we're working with and help them understand exactly what they're seeing, walk them through some of the more complicated problems and scenarios that they're going to have to go through so that they feel like all their questions are answered and they feel comfortable with the property moving forward with. So it's a two-sided team.
So basically, you guys are like the Sherpas that are helping people either get started in their investment or to continue on in their investment to build their portfolio.
Yeah.
It's like the no-brainer. If I'm going to get into this, maybe I've been in it for a bit, or I have a small property, or if I'm just jumping in, I don't know what I don't know, and I know that there's a ton of data out there, and I know I don't know how to analyze it. But you guys not only are going to analyze the data and help me understand if certain properties are worth it or not, but you're also going to hook me up to start to get this business off the ground or help me get out of my W-2, et cetera, by guiding me through and leading me past all the pitfalls that happen in this, right?
That's exactly what we're trying to solve. Right.
Okay.
Yep. We're trying to solve exactly that. It's
So,
honest. If finding an Airbnb that would be profitable, it was easy, we wouldn't exist. Right. So
right.
the only reason we exist is because Airbnb has gotten far more competitive. Home prices nearly doubled and interest rates tripled. And so then all of a sudden it becomes a lot more difficult to find a property that has the ability to win. And so we have to dig a lot harder. You know what I mean? So we got a team of diggers
Hmm.
over here that are trying to find these properties. And that's why we exist.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those landmines you mentioned where an Airbnb investor could easily step on them and just get blown to smithereens. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the interest rates, you mentioned home prices. Have you noticed that a lot of people are avoiding the industry or getting out of the industry? Is that due to the landmines that you mentioned already? I guess, what does the industry look like? And then I kind of want to talk about some of those pitfalls that people can fall into.
Yeah. I feel like for the past 2 years, it's just been Airbnb bust, Airbnb bust, Airbnb's dead. Everybody is saying that through and through. And then I've helped identify hundreds of properties. All of them are profitable. Everybody's thriving. I'm living proof that it's not true. Right. So it's hard for me on my end because I'm always so frustrated when I hear people say that because they come from a point of a very minimal amount of knowledge and they're trying to say this is not good. However, with that being said, I completely understand why people are saying that. And it's because a lot of people have bought bad properties in the wrong area for the wrong price, set them up not correctly, and lost money. I like thousands upon thousands of people have failed. I can guarantee that. I don't have the data point. I haven't talked to every single last one of them, but I know for a fact that the 36,000 listings that exist in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is one city in America, I can guarantee you there's thousands of properties there that are not turning a profit. Thousands. I know the market. I know the prices. I know what it's like. Unless I bought 10 years ago, the chances are they're not performing well. And so I understand where it's coming from. And I think that's why it's so important for people to understand the data more than anything and understand their competition. I always try to explain it. It'd be like you went into a town where there were 5 sandwich shops, right? And you didn't know there were 5 sandwich shops in there and you decide to open up a sandwich shop, right? So imagine you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I'm going to open up a sandwich shop. You go to a town you've never been to. You don't research how many other sandwich shops are. You don't check them out. You don't taste their food. You don't check out their marketing. You don't see what they're doing differently. You don't see how big their restaurant is. You don't see where their location is. And you just open up a sandwich shop. And you just expect you to do better than those other sandwich shops with having almost zero knowledge on what's allowing those guys to do good or bad. That's what the vast majority of people are doing when it comes to Airbnbs. They just open it up and they're like, why am I not doing well? I'm like, well, did you see the guy over there who's got significantly better photos and design? And his property has this certain thing that makes it way cooler than yours. People are choosing that one. And the other 400 that are just like his, if not better, over yours every single time. And so then therefore, how could you ever expect to make as much as him when you don't have those things? You're not selling as much. I can go into it, but yeah, that's the
Yeah.
state of the industry right now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
does that make it ripe for investment?
If you know what you're doing, because you know what is the saying goes, when there's blood on the streets, buy real estate. everyone's terrified right now. Everyone's terrified. Everyone doesn't get it. They don't know where to go. They don't know what they're doing. Therefore, you have significantly less competition of people going out there and actually buying short-term rentals. So it's not like it's 2021 in Gatlinburg where people were buying them left, right, and center. It was insane how many people were buying in Blue Ridge and Gatlinburg because those were like the only places that people could travel in America during those time periods. And so it was just like crazy blow up. And now you have people scared of buying Airbnbs. Everyone's saying that they're dead. And so the competition is down. And so if you know where to buy, what to do, the fear of like hundreds of more Airbnbs popping up overnight in your same area is significantly lower. And you can look at the data, trends on AirDNA to see how many new properties have shown up in each individual market. And you can see it's like this line after COVID where everybody is like reopening their doors and it just flattens out in most markets. Maybe not most, but a good amount of markets. So yeah, I think it's a great time. And then everyone's terrified of the interest rates being high. But if you were to like lower the interest rate by a percentage, it doesn't make a crazy difference to your returns. It just doesn't. I've done it 100 times. And I'm always like, people are so scared of a 7, but they love a 6. You changed it from a 7 to a 6, and you're like, almost nothing happened here, right? Like on the percentage of return. And I'm like, why are people waiting for us to become a 6 when it still works as a 7? Anyway, so yes, I fully believe it is. But I'm biased, right? I know where to go. I know what to look for and all these different little things. If you don't, then it becomes a lot harder. And then, yeah, maybe you should avoid it.
Well, that's part of knowing the data. You know what to
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah. Exactly.
So can you define for me a profitable property? So I know you're in the business of finding people the properties that are the best to buy, the best to rent out, and keep you profitable.
Mm-hmm.
In this industry, what does profitability look like?
Yeah. So I like to define it as the cash flow. Okay. So if I make $100,000, how much of that do I get to keep? Okay. Are my expenses $80,000 and now I get to keep 100,000 or sorry, 20,000? That to me is profitable. And the reason I say that is because every property, whether it's a long-term rental or commercial property, you have appraisals. They're always going to appraise, right? Or at least they have always been appraising, right? And so I don't like to consider that in the equation of being profitable. Then there's also principal pay down, right? I'm paying down my mortgage. And so I'm a part of that is going right back to me, right? Like I'm saving, it's a savings account. And then there's the tax savings. So with the short-term rental tax loophole, it's a whole bunch of money that you can save by buying a short-term rental meeting specific requirements, okay? On your W-2 income or active income. And so all of those things, in my opinion, are these like cherry on tops extra that just will happen if you follow and follow through with it and buy the property and things like that. But the one main differentiator is its ability to cash flow. So if I put $100,000 into this property and I put $100,000 in, and that's between down payment, closing costs, renovation, furniture, amenities, everything to get the property up and running. $100,000 came out of my bank account. How much goes back into my bank account at the end of the year? Is it $10,000? If so, I just made a 10% cash on cash, right? And so when I say profitable, that's what I'm referring to, because an Airbnb is a business and you got to be able to keep the doors open, and you keep the doors open by paying the bills and turning a profit. And so if you can keep doing that year after year after year after year after year, and if you can go 5, 10, 15 years of doing that, then your property is going to appreciate and you're going to get all your principal pay down, and you would have got your tax savings way before in year 1, but you get the idea, right? So that's how I think about it. I like to focus on the cash flow and the cash on cash and let everything else happen.
Do you guys help your clients price their units once they own them, or the units in their portfolio?
So we have a company that we recommend, and I strongly believe in professional revenue managers. It's a thing that I'm going to be talking about like crazy for the next little bit. But somebody who is as big of a data nerd as me, but on the pricing side, who understands, what should my price be? Because it goes really like layers and layers deeper, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
what should the price of my property be January 3rd? So let's say today was January 3rd. What should the price of my property be in July on the 4th, right? What should that be? I should know that and I should have that dialed in. But that should be a different number on March 28th in comparison to January 3rd. And then it varies like crazy, these numbers and the ways you can do things and how you can configure it and the different rule sets you can put in here. I strongly believe in it. I see how the guys over at TechFester manage 150 different properties, and the way that they do the pricing and the difference they get from others, it just blows my mind. We don't do that as of today, but we recommend a company that does do that. And we are more than likely going to open up our own revenue management company within the next 2 quarters, 3 quarters. It just depends on getting the right person set up and making sure that we are doing it properly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So professional revenue management. Does Airbnb not have a pricing guide tool for hosts? It's cool to have the tech, but I don't know about you, but I always feel like I still want to talk to a human expert and see what they really think. Because I feel like the tech is supposed to serve everyone a little bit, but then I could get some really detailed knowledge from apparently from a professional revenue manager. Is that the case?
Yeah, you can get the knowledge, but really you want them to do it. You don't want to interfere with their process. That's actually where it gets screwed up. Like, they know it better than you, let them. Unless you want to become the revenue expert, then you can by all means figure it out, right? But yeah, so Airbnb does have their own, like, we suggest your property should be priced at X. And it's kind of like an industry joke if you have that set up where like you're using Airbnb's suggested pricing, you're like the newest of new. Like, you're the absolute newbie. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's
Because
what I was asking.
yeah, like that's like the worst possible option. Like, you're so much better off just figuring it out yourself than doing that. Because my theory is that Airbnb wants it to be cheaper as much as they possibly can to make it better. And so they're always going to show like a lower price than what you can actually get from the property. But anyways, yes, Airbnb has a thing, but there is also a tool called Price Labs, which helps you somewhat determine what the price should be. There's a whole process you got to go through to be able to figure that one out too. It's really not easy, if I'm being honest. I don't even know it as well as I'd like to, but I'm also not hosting on a day-to-day basis myself. Otherwise, I'd be deep in the weeds of trying to understand it. But I just stay focused on the acquisition side, and that's a part of that management side.
Okay. All right. Well, that was
Yeah.
a new one for me. Revenue manager. All right. Sounds like
Yeah.
there's opportunities there as well.
Yeah. Well, think about, okay, so here's a way to think about it for anyone who's out there listening to this. Thousands of people have their property managed by a property manager, right? And as I was explaining earlier, I did have, I think it was like 8 property management contracts at one time. And I said, you need 2 skills to be good at to build a property management business. You need to be good at sales. You need to be good at operations. You don't need to be good at data. You do not need to be good at understanding the revenue data for the markets. You need to get the person to trust you to manage your property, and then you got to continue to manage it to get 5 stars. And I'm speaking from experience here. I've talked with people who are my own clients that have hired people like property managers, and I tell them, like, your person has no idea how to price this property. I haven't done it for 5 years. I can tell you right now, this person has no idea what they're doing. The pricing is all wrong. I'm looking at all these different comparables. I'm like, there's something off here. And she then goes, yeah, but I have 24 5-star reviews. And I go, okay, yeah, they nailed it on the operation side, but they're not a data person. You know what I mean? And so, anyways, I convinced her to bring in a pricing manager and keep using her property manager, because the property manager just obviously wasn't killing it on the pricing side. I'm telling you, it makes a world of a difference. If the revenue manager can help you get like 2 more bookings a month, it turns into a ridiculous amount of additional revenue that comes through for the property.
And this isn't a race to the basement, is it, for
No.
pricing? It feels like such an exact science to whether I price this at $497 per night versus $432. I don't know. Seems like a ton of nuance there.
Yes, it is. So I'll give two things I like to use to explain the complexity of pricing and a way of thinking about it. So I had properties in Chicago, and Chicago just, it kills it in the summer on the weekends. Okay. It's a weekend town. And so my Airbnbs were larger places. And for the Friday night and the Saturday night, I could get my places rented for about $1,200 to $1,500 a night. Right. So make 12 to 15 on the Friday, 12 to 15 on the Saturday. Right. However, the Thursday before that Friday, I could barely get $300 a night
Wow.
because there just wasn't any demand for it. Right. Now, I had to have those prices for the weekends locked in by November, December was when I really wanted to make sure that I had them set up for July and August. Like, at a minimum, like, could I get away with January? I probably could, but I would feel more comfortable November, December, because I had larger places, larger groups travel. way in advance. Is like bachelorette groups, things like that. They know they're getting married in 18 months. They know when the bachelorette party is happening. They call the people and they plan it out 6-7 months in advance. At this point, they have every option under the sun, right? Because they're planning it so far in advance. So they get to pick the best of the best. And now you're priced properly as the best option. And this is what we cost to get it, right? And people will book it. That's one example, right? Now you have to do that in every direction. So now you got to figure out in July, what should my December pricing be? And if I'm a 1-bedroom, that's way different than a 6-bedroom, right? Like all these things will vary so much. And then every market's different in each location. So anyways, it just goes on. And how many night minimums do you have? Do you have 2, 3, 4? Should you have 7 during peak season? So you can get like weekends. And what days should those start on? Should it be Saturday, Sunday to Sunday? It just goes and goes.
Is this a totally manual process? Or has any of this been automated? Does AI have any effect in anything you guys do?
So it's funny. This is not even what I do.
Like, yeah, that's true. We're going down a different rabbit hole.
But I can talk about it so passionately because I agree with. Anyways, it's this whole revenue management is a whole new thing that's emerging in the Airbnb space within the past, I would say, 2 years. And I'm so on the bandwagon of it making sense. But yes, Price Labs is the go-to software that helps automate the vast majority of this. And but you have to set up Price Labs the right way to automate it. And then you got to check it constantly to make sure that you're not missing anything. It's an interesting game. I'm honestly getting excited just talking about it, even though I don't do it. But so that's like the story I like to share to help you understand how complex this can be with my own experience. But this is the analogy that I like to share to help understanding the pricing of an Airbnb. Okay. So Doritos, right? We all know Doritos chips. Okay. And then we all know those like off-brand, no-name type chips that really don't taste very good. And it's always half the price. So your Doritos is always going to be, let's say it's $5. These ones are $2.50. Okay. And it's about half the price. And it's understandable because that's what the market is willing to pay. They're willing to pay double for Doritos because they taste that much better. But if you're on a budget and you're trying to save some money, you're going to grab these cheaper bags because that's what you're going for, right? That's a reality. That's just how the economy works when it comes to chips. Well, Airbnbs are honestly no different. There are properties that are Doritos and there are properties that are no names. There are some properties that have a pool, a fire pit, pickleball court, really well designed, great photos, great location, all that stuff. Those are Doritos. And then there's other homes that are just like grandma's furniture thrown in there, bad everything. You know what I mean? It's just like it's the home you buy if you're on a budget, right? Like it's a home you rent on a budget. Those both exist. The problem with pricing is that sometimes these people with a really bad listing and that's not really well put together, the no-name bag of chips, they price themselves the same as Doritos. And then they wonder why they're not getting booked and why their occupancy is bad. And it's because for a potential Airbnb guest, when you go and search for an Airbnb, it might as well be the exact same idea as walking down the chip aisle. You're looking at all the different chips. You can see all the different prices and that Doritos are better than no names. Imagine if you saw a bag of no names priced the same as Doritos, you'd be like, what in the world? Doritos are cheap. You know what I mean? Like Doritos are on sale and you grab that bag of Doritos, right? And so it's the same idea when somebody's shopping for an Airbnb, they see all the different pricing. And if the bad listing is priced the same as the good listing, forget about it. Now that's a very big difference I just shared with you, right? A really bad to really good. So it's easy in your mind to see the difference. Once it starts getting a little bit closer together on quality and the way it looks, that's where it starts to get more complicated.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So what's the biggest error you see people making when they come to you guys for help? Or what headspace are they in, or they're about to take a step that you're like, well, no. You need to work with us because don't take that step, please. Where are they at that point?
So honestly, that scenario you just explained almost never happens. Where I'm like, no, don't take that step. Don't take that. It's so rare to be able to catch somebody where I say, no. You know what I mean?
Okay. It's already been done.
Exactly. Right. Or they already convinced themselves that they're right, that they know what they're doing. It is what it is. And you're not right there. Then that's the point of when they purchase a property that they should have never purchased in a million years, but they just don't know it because they didn't do their homework. So what typically happens is that an individual who hires us, again, understands they have a tax problem. They learn that. They go, okay. Then they go, okay, well, I need to buy an Airbnb if I'm going to be able to save on these taxes. And so then they go, okay, well, how do I go find an Airbnb? And they start to try and figure it out. And they go, okay, well, what do I need to know? And they start to look up videos. Then they look into a market that they're familiar with and they try to make sense of, well, should I buy this one? Should I buy that one? Then they're trying to figure out like, okay, is this a good market? Is this a bad market? Are these good properties? Are these bad properties? Like, how do I know if this is good or bad? They're trying to figure that out. And then they start to go through different stuff that's available to figure that out. And then that's where it's starting to get complicated now, right? And they're like, okay, well, I don't know if this property that I'm about to buy for $1 million is going to make me a penny. Like, I'm not really feeling confident with it. And then maybe, and what most people do, especially those who are like really trying to do it themselves, they'll go to the next market and they'll try and study another market and figure out if they can find a property that'll be profitable there. And then if they don't, and they find nothing, they don't feel good about it. And then they move to the next market and the next market and the next market. And they just keep going over and over and over again. And they eventually get to the point where it's been like 2, 4, 6 months. And they just go, I can't do it. Like, I can't find a property. I've tried. I've put the time in. I can't do it. I need somebody to help me who understands where to go, what to do, what will work for me. And they then reach out to us, because our whole claim to fame is like, I studied 350 different markets, more than that now. And I've identified these 15 to 20 different markets that we feel really, really good about. And now we're even tapping into a bunch of other, even smaller remote areas that work well too. And so we know where to go, right? We know where to go. We know what works. We've seen it. We've done it enough times. We have repetition. And so so people eventually reach out to us because they are just lost at that point of trying to research and trying to find, and they just can't do it.
So is there a question that you aren't being asked or that you wish people would ask when they come to you for help?
Okay, so I don't know if this is the best one, but honestly, people should be asking, what can I do to help this be the most successful, right? People get in their own way like crazy. They have these beliefs already. And a lot of times we're fighting those beliefs that they learned from some guru who put a 30-second video that didn't make any sense. And so if somebody came to us and was like, what could I do to help this be extremely successful? Then we could break down and be like, listen, we're not going to show you a bad property. When we say that the property needs to be focused around this demographic, we're not making that up out of thin air. You have to think about the way that our business model is set up. We have individuals who absolutely love their day job, make a ridiculous amount of money, and have a tax problem every single year, and want to use short-term rentals to be able to build a portfolio, invest their money well, and save on their taxes. Those people will come back to us over and over and over and over and over again if their property is profitable, if we did exactly what we aim to do. And so if we miss that, they're not going to come back for another one. And so when people come to us and we're like, hey, please hire this revenue manager, or please paint this wall pink, as bright pink as you can, right? When we say those things, we're saying them for a reason. Your property is going to be profitable, and then you're going to come back for another one. And everyone wins. Everybody's happy. Clients happy. We're happy. Everyone's happy. So yeah, that's a great question to ask. I really like it. But that's what I would say is the best thing to do, is just ask us, how can I be successful? So as an example, we had one of our clients. She's now bought 5 properties with us. We show her 3 deals. They're all great deals, right? We don't show bad deals. So we show her 3 deals. They're all good. She puts an offer in on all 3 and goes, I'll just negotiate with the seller that's willing to negotiate. And I was like, that's beautiful. You know what I mean? That's how you get it done.
So now I'm curious, how does your company make money? Do you guys work on like a retainer? Do you guys have ownership in the properties with the owner? How does that work for you?
We're just a flat fee upfront. It's a service. You're hiring us to do a thing, and we get paid upfront to do that. We're not brokers. We're not realtors. We can't make money on the close of a property as of today. And so we just take a flat fee upfront.
It's easy peasy. And
Yeah.
clearly you guys are the experts. It's one of those where it's like, please just shut up and listen to us. We've done this time and again. We know it works, right? I think that was a perfect way to ask my tough ending question there for anyone, entrepreneurs, anyone who, especially trying to get into this space. It's so easy to get into your own way. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're working with you, John, it's like you are paying us for our expertise. Yep. Let us deliver the expertise, right? Trusting the experts is always a good move.
Yeah. I had a call with a guy the other day. He's never bought a property. He's never done it. He's just starting to look into it. And he told me all of the reasons why he was right. And I just sat there and I went, okay. He hadn't hired us at this point. It was just a sales call. And I just got to the point where I'm like, there's no convincing this guy that he's in his own way. And so I just left it. So anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little hidden sales message there. Some people just aren't ever going to be sold.
Yeah, it is what it is. You don't
Yep.
honestly, you don't even want to sell them at that point because they're not
Nope.
going to make for a good client either. So, is
It's
what
just
it
going to
is.
be a big old headache. Those are called
Yep.
red flag clients or
Yes.
prospects.
Yes,
Yeah.
big time.
Awesome. Well, John, this has been fantastic. I could keep riffing with you for another hour here, but I know you're a busy man, got to get going. I want to make sure that everybody out there listening today, if they want to get more of you, if they want to get a hold of your free courses or follow you anywhere out in the socials on the internet there, what's the best way to do that?
I always recommend just going straight to our website because that's where we keep all of our free courses, right? So we got 2 free courses on there. If you have any interest in what I'm talking about right now, that's the place to go. That's the place to start. That's the content to consume. It's at strsearch.com. Once you're on the website, you'll be able to figure it out. You'll be able to also figure out my socials, where to find us, extra content, but just always start with the website. I promise you, it's the best place to learn.
All right. Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much again, man. This has been a pleasure and the best of luck to you the rest of 2025.
Thank you. Appreciate it.